and she's on her way. So she should be here this afternoon. So people just have to put up with me this morning.
I
So,
think that-
okay, Josh, I'm going to introduce you and then.
a little closer to that. Okay, there you go. Scoot up on it. There we go. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Recording?
I'm going to record too. Okay. So, Josh is a district account manager for Champion X, which is a global leader in oil field technology solutions, serving the oil and gas industry to help deliver efficient, clean, and safe, sustainable energy to all corners of the world. That's a long sentence.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Josh is married to Tina. That's probably more important. And they have 3 children, Ethan 25, Madeline 21, and Wyatt 17. So you know Cody very well, and you and Cody were just going to go with the flow of things. So you're going to have to help me out because I do not know your story. So start telling us your story.
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to give a little synopsis of the background?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll get this a little bit closer. Okay.
So I'm a convert. I just celebrated my third Easter as a Catholic.
Okay.
This has been a wonderful experience. My conversion process actually would start probably when I was around 5, when I was just a little fella. But it came, I would say, full circle between 4 and 5 years ago. My family's amazing. My wife is my best friend, my rock, my true, if there is anything that God actually envisioned, matching 2 people up. I got lucky that she found me and that she keeps me around. But family was great. I love my career. I love serving the community. But it seemed like the harder I pushed and the harder I continued to try to move forward, there was a hole inside me that I just failed to fill. And that's what spawned what's missing. What is actually missing? And the realization I heard loud and clear, my relationship with God. And that was where I needed to put my emphasis and my focus. Well,
now what brought you to that conclusion? You
The-
just discerning what's missing?
the inability to fill a hole, something was void inside me. I could feel it, and it became frustrating. What I'm trying harder and harder and harder, yet the hole doesn't seem to be filling up at all. So, my relationship with God. Then, okay, how am I going to do this? My wife, her family's Catholic. I was raised Methodist and Presbyterian. What's going to make the most sense for me? Definitely not going to be Catholic. I mean, that's not the route that I'm going to go. So I continue to push forward. I learn, I explore, and every arrow, every question, everything that I can possibly present to myself leads towards Catholicism. And eventually it was, well, Josh, you're going to keep fighting the inevitable. Let your pride go, and let's move forward as God wants you to. And enrolled in RCIA along with 2 of my 3 children. My wife also participated in RCIA, and here we are.
Wow.
I have a church, which I love to be able to say that I have. We attend St. Francis in Munger. So yeah, it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
So during this process, was it just things you read, or was there somebody who was kind of guiding you too? And why was Catholicism off the list in the beginning?
Yeah, this is not necessarily fun to admit out loud. I was raised with somewhat of an anti-Catholic sentiment. My dad was from Beloit, and there was a big separation in his town between the Protestants and the Catholics, or what they would reference as the Protestants and the mackerel snappers. The Catholics had everything, all the rest didn't. Then I just kind of had that. Then through my own ignorance, I suffered some of what I would call the fatal flaw of judging some of the human side corruption versus what the church actually is. So that's through my own ignorance.
That's easy to do too. I can understand that.
And then of course I was familiar with, our town was kind of odd. We'd have a Methodist minister, and you would attend Methodist church 3 Sundays out of the month. But then a Presbyterian minister would come from another town, and our Methodist would minister would swap out. So I had this Methodist and Presbyterian background, but that was actually fairly short-lived.
Mhm.
I think by the time I was in late grade school, early middle school, my attendance at church had ceased.
Yeah. So you've been a Catholic total of 3 years,
Yes.
and your children would have been pretty, you know, a little older, knowing what they're doing
Yes.
when they came in. So all three of them came in with you.
Two of the three.
Two of the three.
Yeah, we left a soldier behind. My oldest
okay.
was already, well, he would have been finishing up college and was a long ways away, and RCIA didn't line up with his schedule. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that he'll find his way there.
I'm just thinking around the supper table, there would have been some interesting conversations as you're going through the process.
It was. And so it's my daughter and my youngest, very engaged, very curious. They've been drawn to it, almost like I may have been a stumbling block the whole time or an obstacle in their path. And I've seen what it's opened up for them, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And my wife, never pressured, never acted like I was a decay or I was some type of hold up to absolute joy in our family. She's been patient with me. I feel like she's very proud. And I think one of the things that she's proud of is this choice, and this choice was not from anybody driving me except for my conversations with God, and where all of my questions led me to the answers, which led me to the church.
Yeah. She's running J Corp.
Yes.
Yep. They're one of our J Corp, excuse me. J Corp is one of our underwriters. So thank you. Thanks to Tina. Okay.
And Jeanette is my godmother.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
So there really are two owners. We were just discussing this last week, and I said, I only know about Tina. And somebody was saying, well, Jeanette too. And it's like, well, I guess I've never met her.
So Jeanette is the owner.
Okay.
And then Tina stepped in and assumed responsibility after her father passed away.
Oh, I see.
And her and her brother Tyler, because Aaron passed away, Tyler moved up into the head role for running all the crews, assist on a lot of bids, and then my wife, what would you say? I guess would be the primary director of the internal office workings.
But Jeanette's the actual owner.
Correct.
Okay, very good. I'm going to give out our trivia question. Oh, by the way, Kelton and Jill Steckline, you know them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they just donated $100 and said they're grateful for Divine Mercy Radio. So thank you, Kelton and Jill. And our 9 o'clock trivia question is this. Baptism, this is easy, folks. So, I mean, somebody's going to get their name in the drawing easy. Baptism, confirmation, and the Eucharist are known as sacraments of what? A, healing, B, initiation, C, service. So give us a call at 785-621-4110, 785-621-4110, and answer that trivia question, and you will get your name in the drawing for, at the end of the day, to win a $50 chance to win a $50 gift certificate from Messenger Traditional Catholic Store. So I take it that Kelton and Jill have won the book giveaway, Fire and Light, that donated by Ann and Heil Huguenin of Hayes Memorial Chapel, owners and funeral directors. So thank you, Ann and Heil. So back to Josh. Do you go by Josh or Joshua?
I go by Josh. My wife calls me Joshua, but normally it's Josh.
Okay. I have a son, Josh, too. He was only Joshua when he was in trouble.
Okay. I understand that very well.
But so the topic today is building on the foundation. So you have this foundation. So according to Cody, you're so on fire for your faith that you keep building on what was given to you. So can you tell us how and what's happened?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. First of all, let's just say that from my perspective, Catholicism is beautifully hard. And coming in, first, I got to get oriented. I got to get accustomed. I've got to become habitual. So prayer, attendance, reading, just trying to understand things to the best of what my pea brain can understand, or at least at the state that I'm in.
Mhm.
And then it's okay. If we're going to do this, then there's a level of accountability that needs to occur, for myself, but for God, for my family. So I wanted to look around. What options are there? What presents itself in my community and possibly even beyond? Deacon Steve, who was my RCIA leader, um, invited me to Men at Prayer. We call it MAP. So Saturday mornings, 7:30, we all meet to go over Sunday's readings, and it's everything from a comprehensive dive into what the scripture, what the most logical intent of the scripture message is, to how does it move you, where does it take you, and you've got a bunch of men sitting around a table, um, sharing,
Hmm.
and that's it's a beautiful thing. I learn so much. I enjoy it. It's a type of fellowship that I can't say enough about.
About how many participate in that?
We have anywhere from, we'll say, 6 on a low end day
Mhm.
to 12
Yeah,
on
that's good.
on kind of what you call a full table setting.
So that's just men?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Men at Prayer.
Yeah.
So kind of a safe space for us to, to be the men that we are in all of
Right.
our good, bad, and ugliness, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Well,
And
you strengthen one another.
we do,
Yeah.
we do, as iron sharpens iron, which also led me to my marked men experience.
Oh, tell us about marked men.
So
I don't think we've ever had anybody on talking about it. So.
okay, so marked men would be Christian based. I mean, uh, Father John Lager was one of the initial founders,
Mm-hmm.
but I got I got frustrated with, I know why, or I know what my sins are, but why are some of my sins repetitive? What's the underlying issue? What's causing me to do this? How can I get some type of insight on why I just do some of the things that I do, why I
Mm-hmm.
think some of the things that I think? And I'd had some people approach me, say, well, you know what might be good for you is a marked men experience. Okay, here we go. Another retreat. I'm going to go out, sit around a campfire, tell some stories, and come back, and you're going to feel good for a couple of days, and then that wears off.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I had in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, eventually I say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Something's telling me to at least give it a shot. And the simplest way I can explain it is, it was everything that I didn't think something could be. So it allowed me to rip the Band-Aids off,
Mm-hmm.
or pull the skin back and see where the wounds are, expose them, bring them to the surface. You can't heal, let's say, 45 years worth of wounds all at once, but to know where they are, to know why you have them, and to be able to pour out all of the all of the negative things that you've filled up your cup with inside your body over that
Mm-hmm.
time, and replace it with God, with Jesus. That was a catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me back here, in which we have a group that meets every other Wednesday, to continue to hold ourselves accountable, to be honest, and to continue to work on healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been a very positive in my life.
Do you think that most people don't even know they have those wounds because they're so deep buried?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Myself included.
what does marked men do to bring them to the surface?
So
I mean,
it's a process, and we are asked to limit how much we divulge, so that we don't
oh,
taint or
ruin the
um,
retreat for others.
correct.
Okay, I
But
get it.
it's based on the wounds of Christ.
Oh,
So
okay.
everything from anger, shame, except how is that? What is deep down inside you? And like you said, some people, well, fear is not something I deal with. Oh yeah, do the work, find out.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of things that we have either subconsciously or just unknowingly buried stuff, built walls around, and if you can't open it back up and start working on it, you're not going to make progress, so to speak. And the goal is to expose
Mm-hmm.
and then begin the healing process.
Yeah. So, you said you meet weekly?
Every other Wednesday.
Twice a
Yeah,
month.
we've got a
Okay.
couple groups. My group would be the Wednesday evening group.
Okay. And then how has this changed you as the head of your family?
I think, and this is me speaking as plainly as I can, awareness and accountability, followed by curiosity.
Mhm.
So being aware of what I do helps me to be more aware that there are others that suffer the same way. Holding myself accountable means that once I become aware, what am I going to do to improve that? Am I going to simply just pray and hope that God takes it all away? Am I going to pray, listen, and try to put the work in that would foster positive improvement?
Mhm.
Then I fall daily, but
We all do.
I will always get back up. And that's part of the accountability piece.
Mhm.
And then I have the curiosity. Um, my wife has always been big on this, and she's corrected me a million times over. But we're so quick to make well, what that person is doing is wrong. I
Mhm.
would do it a lot better. Okay, that's an easy way to judge. So rather than judging, maybe be a little bit more curious. So instead of making a snap decision on what you think that behavior is, maybe just ask yourself why.
Mhm.
And then can you relate that back to yourself? Have you ever had poor behavior or made a bad choice because of other influences going on? So I think awareness, accountability, and curiosity. And how has that helped me with my family? Well, patience, understanding, and then something that I have struggled with dearly my entire life is empathy.
Mhm.
At one point, I would have told you I don't even have it. I completely lack empathy. No, no, I actually do have it.
Mhm.
There's a flicker of light in there, and as I move forward, that light it gets just a little stronger and a little stronger, and that has been a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Now, my kids might tell you, well, the old man's just kind of softening up over time. Maybe, or maybe there's more of a divine push with that softening, and that's what I would
Mhm.
like to think.
Yeah, I think so. So tell us about how do you fit your prayer life into your routine and what does that look like?
Okay, so I'm a talk out loud kind of person.
Okay.
I'm not a quiet prayer. So my wife and I we've tried to focus on our physical well being, knowing that we're getting older, and you know hopefully God will bless us with grandkids someday. So we want to be able to keep up with them. So
Mhm.
we have a little workout routine in the morning that starts about 5:30. Upon conclusion of our workout, my wife goes in to start her routine, which includes a myriad of spiritual exercises, and then I do my praying outside.
Mm.
So to start the day, and every now and again when I'm running behind, which isn't very often, but when I'm running behind, and let's say I just go ahead and kind of skip over that, oh, I can tell. I mean, my
Mm.
entire day is just running differently, so I have to stop, take time, and go talk. So I like to start the day. I can't help but think about God and go into prayer multiple times a day, whether it's for a few seconds or whether I just got to take a few minutes to go and do it. And then where I'm still struggling is to conclude my day, but I'm getting a little bit better. And then, of
Mm.
course, my wife and I pray together at times for things. Um, as a family, we pray.
Mhm.
It's nice. So prayer life is rooted. Is it where it needs to be? No. Is it where it should be? No, it's not. But hey, this is a long road. This is a
Mhm.
journey.
Well, our theme is holiness is not for wimps. So to
Oh,
get there, it's a whole process,
it
huh?
is. It is. It's like I said. It's beautifully hard.
Yeah. So let's see. Long time to go. So you
Okay.
have to just share stories with me.
Okay.
And this isn't my specialty, I guess. So let me see if we got any. It looks like we have Marianne from Salina was the trivia winner. So she knew that the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist were sacraments of initiation. And she also donated $250 and said she loves this station and keep up the good work. Well, it'll get better after I leave this.
Oh, you're too hard on yourself.
No,
You're too hard on yourself.
I'm not a natural talker. Does that make sense? I think you have to be in this position. You have to just be able to think off the top of your head. And I'm more an organizer. But we have to do what we have to do. Because
That's right.
I just think the evil one, so many times when we plan in our Care-a-Thons, throws a wrench into things. And usually it's equipment. Something goes wrong with the equipment at the last minute, even though we test the day before and everything's working right. Um, but this time it was medical. I mean, I ended up having emergency surgery on Friday, and I
Oh,
didn't even know
wow.
if I was going to make it here. And then Cody gets sick. And so it's just like somebody doesn't want us to broadcast, but somehow God always finds a way to get us through everything. And we're here, we're on the air, and we're talking with Josh Waddell on building faith on the foundation. What has it? How about your kids? Have you noticed a difference since
Yeah.
they became Catholic?
Yes, I have. Um, I don't think I want to use the word awakening, but I've seen an opening or maybe even a spreading. Um, Questions that they had. Maybe there's somewhat of an uncomfortable disconnect on I feel, but how do I express, to what questions can I ask, and if there's not an environment that's been created in which those questions are made to be known that they are welcome,
Mm-hmm.
are you stifling or holding them back? And I would say that right now, I, I think that's one of the biggest, if you want to call it an achievement as a father, because I'm not good at anything, but what I love the most is being a father. And I think my ability to help break down any walls or barriers that would inhibit them to be able to explore, openly ask, and be comfortable to ask.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think has made great strides in watching them spread their wings.
I would think that from an outside perspective, that you being, seeing you with your routine in the morning, even with your wife, you're both working out, you're praying, you get off for your day. They see dad and mom have a relationship with God. So I'm going to go and ask their advice for things. It's just, it would be easier. It would be easier to come to you and ask for advice, I think, especially when they're struggling in certain areas, because you're not going to knock them down, you're going to build them up.
Yeah. And my wife and I were just talking about this morning. There's a lot of time, if I go back and I started to write it all down, there'd be a lot of time that I've spent on what I would call external anxieties, things that I project out into the future of, is this going to work out? Is this not going to work out? What do I have to do? And it might be anything from a day to a year to 5 years out. But you start carrying that weight. I've noticed that has, I'm not going to say completely gone, because we have the whirlwind of our day.
Mm-hmm.
We have things that we have to account for, both in our professional life and our personal life and anything else that we may choose to do as an act of service. And those are those are things that don't eat me alive anymore. They are going to be what they are going to be. What is my reaction going to be? How am I going to handle the situation? I expect bad things to happen. Just how am I going to deal with it? Well, by taking some of that anxiety away, or those pressures, those things that just linger and eat at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those have been replaced with kind of an awareness of, man, are you ever going to get better at this? But the weight of what I would call the internal strife to want to be better for God, to be a better son to God, a better husband, a better father, a better community member, a better employee. I will take those internal, if you want to refer them as anxieties, I call them internal drivers. I will take those any day of the week over these old projections that used to create additional weight on my shoulders. Well, my point with that is, I think my children have also seen that, and my wife as well. I'm not as tense. I'm not as tight. I'm more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe maybe there's less days a week or less hours in a day in which I would have that look on my face in which I don't know if I want to bother dad right now, or
Uh-huh.
is my husband open to hearing what I have to say? I think those are improving,
Wow.
absolutely improving, which again,
Wow.
I credit to one thing and one thing only, and that's the conversion and the rebuilding of my relationship with
Yeah.
God.
Wow. So, how can we go out and get others to get where you're at?
I
They have to want it from the beginning,
you have
probably.
to. I mean, we're given freedom,
Hmm.
freedom to choose. I guess, what is it that you want to choose? Um,
Hmm.
Catholicism is hard because it creates an awareness. I mean, you can get caught up, I guess, on all the rules if you want to look at them as rules, but show me something that is misaligned with wanting the best for you.
Right.
And that's what I think is. I don't know whether I'll ever fall into a category of even being a decent human being. I don't know. I don't know where the chips will fall, but I do know that through through a struggle to want to improve is a good choice to make.
Hmm.
Now, for some, like I'm always in awe of my mother-in-law, my godmother.
Yeah.
I just think she is innately one of the kindest, most genuinely nice people I've ever met, which is almost the antithesis of me. Nobody's ever going to accuse me of being, well, there's Josh Waddell, just a really sweet guy. No, no, and rightfully so. I missed the boat. I blew a lot of opportunities in my life. Um, but to choose, to openly choose to want this life, you also have to accept the fact that it's very difficult,
Hmm.
and as you grow with it, the awareness grows. And just like a high school kid looks in the mirror and sees all the blemishes or all the things that are wrong, I mean, you start to see that more clearly and more clearly, which can either create a counterintuitive, I'm just never going to be any good, or hey, I'm not short on anything to work on,
Right. And
and it's
God,
nice to have things to work on.
yeah. We were just talking with Father Fred at 7 o'clock hour about confession and how people just don't like to see what's wrong. That nothing's wrong with me. You know, it's out there, right? And so getting people to go to confession is a challenge. So,
Father Damien would probably say, well, I got a Josh is a frequent flyer. He comes and sits in the hot seat quite frequently, and I
well,
love it. I mean, I believe in it.
well, there's such a peace that comes over you when you come out, I think. And I always say thank you, God, for creating this sacrament because we needed it.
Yes,
So I'm going to give the second trivia question out. Um, so, what sins does baptism take away? Original sin, actual sin, or both original sin and actual sin? The number to call is 785-621-4110. 785-621-4110. What sins does baptism take away? Original sin, actual sin, or both original sin and actual sin? So we'll wait to hear from you. And if you get that question correct, you'll get your name in the drawing for $50 gift certificate and Messenger Traditional Catholic Store. So where are we at? Do you have like favorite Bible verses, or do you have something that like a motto that you follow every day?
I do. I have
Okay.
one. A friend of mine, Rick Binder, presented me with Psalm 139. Search me,
Mm,
search me, O God, search me, O Lord. I love that one. That is something that I think about a lot, talk to God about. And then, of course, as a convert, I'm always drawn to the vineyard parable.
oh
People
yeah.
people come in at different times.
Mm,
So um, knowing that I can come in at a late hour, um,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know about the getting paid first thing, but still getting paid the same. So
Yeah.
I've always taken some type of reassurance in that parable as well.
Yeah.
So those, and I'm I'm as ignorant as one can possibly be when it comes to the Bible. There's parts that I've really enjoyed reading. There's parts that I read and think, wow, you know things like Leviticus, for
Yeah.
instance,
Yeah.
just super difficult for
Yeah.
me to get through.
Yeah.
Now,
And it's a great story up until that point.
yeah, yeah, just hit you with this. Okay, okay, the road is going to be slow. But Men at Prayer, our MAP group. I mean that
Hmm.
really helps. Um, Bishop Barron's recaps, things that help me to understand not necessarily just the clarity of the message, but also how the message can be applied to everyday behavior and activity.
Hmm.
And then I've become a reader. Um, my wife reads all the time, and I started with maybe one of the hardest books. It actually took me a year to read this book, City of God by St. Augustine.
Oh, now see, I have never read that.
That's you know,
It's
roll
tough
the
to get
sleeves
through.
up. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know whether it's divine brilliance or just his brilliance in general, but I would find myself, and of course, they speak differently. I mean, we're going back to, 300 AD,
Right.
right? So you read a little bit, you have to go look up words,
Uh-huh.
then you have to understand the word, go back and read everything again. So I mean, it was a chore,
Hmm.
um, but I loved it.
Well, perseverance there.
Yeah, I finished it. I didn't just give up on it. And then a friend of mine recently, Cody had recommended it during RCIA, and I was always going to get around to it. And then a friend of mine, actually the guy that owned the business next to you, gave me a C.S. Lewis set,
Mm.
seven books, and I started reading C.S. Lewis, and I have absolutely fallen in love with everything about what he's writing. I
Mm-hmm.
started with like the problem of pain. Right now, I'm on Mere Christianity. I love the way he brings it down to a level a little different than Saint Augustine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I love it, and that's part of the. This is going to be terrible, and I hope none of your listeners are offended by this. But sometimes I'm a scientist at heart.
Right.
So sometimes you have to make your own analogies, or you have to tie things together that make sense for you, right?
Right.
And sometimes I fashion Catholicism as being a skill, not in the sense that building a relationship with God is the same as going out on a golf course and improving your swing, but nonetheless, something that has to be practiced, something that can't just be accepted, believed, and then left on a shelf, never to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of skill building has to be the ability to practice and use different practice approaches. Do I do it correctly? I have no idea. But I know that by fashioning it as a skill, there are things that I try to do to improve my overall ability to be everything from a man to a Catholic to an employee. I try
Mm-hmm.
to put all this together
Right.
through Catholicism
Right.
and reading, prayer, reading, fellowship, and then of course it all culminates. I'm at the mass, but
Right.
all of those together, I think are the primary tools that I use to keep building on that foundation,
Right.
to keep getting better at being loved and loving others.
Yeah. So it looks like we have some donations coming in. St. Francis Knights of Columbus from Munger donated $500, and El- Ellie Beasley is the trivia winner, and she is from Healy, Kansas. So, um, Ellie, your name will go into the drawing at the end of the day for a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Store. So I'm just thinking, as you're talking, you're not you when you go out to practice your Catholicism in all the areas of your life, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be preachy. It's just, how you treat people, how other people perceive you.
Yes,
I mean,
my nature isn't to. I'm not the preachy type.
Yeah.
Now, anybody that knows me, I don't know whether it's a blessing and a curse or it's absolutely both, but confrontation is not something that I've ever strayed away from. Have I always done it correctly? No. Um, I'm sometimes too quick to openly admonish, not take some time to think. Um, if you've known me long enough, I'm sure we've had some type of a negative exchange.
Mhm.
And more than likely, it was my inability to find a better approach. Now, I can't go back and fix all the wrongs that I've done.
Mhm.
I can apologize, but I have to move forward. But in moving forward, I've noticed the frequency in which, let's say, that there is a negative exchange, that frequency has drastically decreased.
Mm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I deserve some pat on the back. That's not what I
No,
mean.
no.
I just mean that there's something about my approach, which I think has to do with being more in tune with the Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
Maybe stopping, letting that fill, maybe getting my own first initial reactions out of the way
Mhm.
and let something else move my behavior.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying I'm good at it yet. I'm just saying that it's improved.
Wow. Well, that is just so awesome. I'm just thinking you guys are going to be such great grandparents someday.
Well, I hope.
Grandpa this, Grandpa
I
that.
hope.
Grandpa, tell me a story.
Yep. I hope my children are steadfast in their ability to parent, which would make our job as grandparents be even easier. So
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And then you got a donation from the Knights of Columbus, St. Francis.
Mhm.
That was my third piece that I've added. It was men at prayer, marked men, and then getting more involved, with an organization. I joined the Knights
Mhm.
a couple years ago, and that's been a positive experience.
Yeah. I think my husband went to Marked Men for Christ.
He did. We were talking about
Okay.
it in the
And
waiting
then
room.
and he's very involved with the Knights too. So last hour, well, no, it was with Father Fred, the 7 o'clock hour. We were talking a little bit. He was talking about marriage, how people aren't getting married and things anymore. And Lester and I always say, if people just get through that tough period, yes, it's like, I don't love her today, or I don't love
Mhm.
him today. Um, and you're frustrated with each other. But if you get through that, then the love at the other end is even deeper. But people don't want to go through the passage, just like for your faith life. Sometimes you have to go through this passage to get to the light, to where there's peace and joy. Am I onto something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
you absolutely are. I'm a layman, so I'm not going to pretend that I have vast knowledge, but I also walk around the same world that we all do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all allowed our own, I guess, observational um, abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny that there's very few things in this world that have any type of great meaning or impact that don't require a lot of hard work and effort. And a lot of the things that we're the most proud of is accomplishing something that took our best effort,
Mm-hmm.
and something that took me a long time to realize. If you're married, and let's just reduce it to something as simple as having an argument. If you want to win the argument, then your spouse has to lose. And that's an odd concept, because both of you are matched up to win life together, right?
That's a great analogy. Great. Yeah. So
And what
keep going.
how do we miss that?
Yeah.
Why would I ever want my wife to lose? How does that help us? How does me winning something against my wife propel us forward? I have a hard time believing that it will.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you both win? How do you both win? And I think that's we're prideful.
Mm-hmm.
We're stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
We're right but we leave off the just piece, right? Because
Yeah.
if we're going to be right, maybe what I am bringing to the table is a better option. Maybe I'm right in bringing it to the table, but am I just if my goal is to beat the individual? I fail to see how that just piece would tie back into that.
Right.
So how do we win together?
Yeah.
Oh, there's now if you have a solution for that, if that's in our talk today, if you're going to give the world the solution on how we win together, well, I don't know how you do it unless you submit.
Oh, that's excellent. Just
And
like Jesus.
yeah, he won for us, and the only way he did that was through the ultimate submission. Now, is there weakness in submission? It's tied to it somehow, right? I mean, the
It looks weak from the outside.
yeah, and the secular world maybe would make you believe that submission is synonymous with weakness, but I would argue the opposite. Um, the faith, the strength of faith that you have, that one would have to possess in order to truly submit and know that in my submission, myself or as a married couple, we are able to win together. I think that's strength right there.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's something worth taking a little bit deeper look at.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Okay, we got a couple more donations in. Karen Beaker from Hayes says she donated $200 on top of her monthly donation and says Divine Mercy Radio is an inspiration and she's grateful for 5 stations. So are we. Thank you, Lord. um, Tyrell and Jerry Beasley pledged $250 in memory of their son, Aaron Matthew, who they just lost this past year. So thank you, Tyrell and Jerry. So. Okay, we're talking with Josh Waddell on building on the foundation. So Josh came into the church a few years ago, and he's on fire for the faith, and he's firing up us cradle Catholics here. So, um, do you have any advice for people who struggle in their faith, or?
And struggle in their faith, that's one thing that I guess I don't know how to approach that, because for the longest time I didn't even know what my faith was. And then a calling occurred, and with some reluctancy, I drugged my feet, but I eventually heard and moved forward. Um, I believe firmly that we are supposed to struggle, that we are supposed to suffer at times, because without the lows that life offers, how do we recognize, appreciate, or find joy in the highs? And like if I was to take out a yellow notepad and I was to write down all the moments in my life that garnered joy, I could just fill legal pad after legal pad after legal pad. And if I was to do the same thing with all the moments of pain, sadness, and suffering, I'm gonna fill some pages, no doubt.
Yeah.
But then if I take a deeper look at, okay, on all the moments of pain and suffering from my own perspective, 95% or more of those situations are going to be self-induced. They're going to be as a response to the choices that I made. And, I have to pay the price for a bad choice. That's not to, oh, look what happened to me. No, it's, wow, if you don't want that, or if you want to mitigate that to the best of your ability, make better choices, Josh. I mean, it's as simple as that. Now, that's my life. And I would say that in that analysis, I am blessed beyond my means. Have I had death? Yeah. Have there been external things that have happened that have caused my heart to hurt or break? Absolutely. But as an overall writing, what you would call analytical, true evaluation, the majority of the suffering has been from my own doing. Now, that's not the same for everybody. That's my blessing. That's the fortunateness that I've had. Others, I mean, we can think of heartbreaking cases all over in which individuals have done nothing to have what's been induced upon them. I don't know, except for we're given a life. Some may be easier than others. Some may come with extreme difficulty, but may I don't understand the design or the plan, and that's far beyond me. And I don't question that. I just know that you got a choice. You can, kind of like what we learned last week in the gospel. You can start walking in the wrong direction, or you can turn and walk towards. And I think moments of pain and suffering are a great opportunity to put your arms out and be received and take comfort knowing that no matter how bad things are getting for you, there is one that always loves you. And while we might not understand why we hurt and feel the way that we do, why we suffer the life that we suffer, if we stay holding on, if we keep those arms wrapped around, it's all going to work out as it was intended. And
you'll see a blessing at the end, even though you're in the midst of suffering. And if you're, when you are in the midst of suffering and you feel like you can't pray, you can just put yourself, like you said, into the arms of Jesus or me. I use Mary a lot because I'm female probably, but just like, I know you've got this. I know there's a plan. I don't understand it, but I'm just going to trust in you. And sometimes during those times, it's just hard to pray and just know that other people have your back. Because I think, when we ask others to intercede for us, those are great times to know, okay, I can't do it right now, but somebody else is doing it for me, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which, speaking of, Divine Mercy Radio does have we have a prayer board. So if you go to our website at dvmercy.com, and I think it's right up front where you can click on prayer, or it's one of the pull down menus. And we've had quite a few people from all over the world, actually, that will send in prayer requests, and we do pray for them. And we have our board of directors who is committed to praying a chaplet to Our Lady of Perpetual Help, which is the patroness of our station. They pray that chaplet every Wednesday evening for the prayers that have come in. And then after our board meeting, we pray for all the prayers that have come in that month. So we do pray. We didn't want to have a prayer board without actually praying. So we've set up this kind of system for us. So if you have a prayer request out there, you can always go to dvmercy.com. Let us know. You don't have to let us know names, what's going on. Just say, pray for a first name. God knows, right?
God knows.
God knows. So we have about 10 more minutes. Josh, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I couldn't answer your last question very well because, well, I am empathetic and my heart goes out to all those that are suffering. But I think that's also part of the devil's grand design, is to start making that influencing factor of, well, the world is meaningless, or what is hope? And there's a couple quotes that come to mind. Comparison is the thief of joy. And our youngsters, or I guess I should say, I was kind of an analog. I was raised analog, but then digital came in. So I'm not adept with, the Instagram, all those types of apps and features. But there is an appearance that the world is living through or showing themselves through a filter, which makes it easy to, I don't have that. I don't look that good, and you start to compare yourself to everything around you. And I think that quote, comparison is the thief of joy, I think that is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then hope never disappoints,
Right.
So to lose hope, that's one thing that really scares me for individuals, is if they get to the point in which they start to abandon even the sanctity of hope. And I don't know. I don't know what those answers are, or what would cause somebody to get to that point. I'm very fortunate. I live in a community in which we don't have to hide. You know, we can be open about our love for God, our love for
Mhm.
each other. If something goes wrong, this community seems like they will wrap their arms around you and try to help you. I don't know
Mhm.
that that exists everywhere.
Right.
I mean, this is the one town I swore I would never live in. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I grew up 45 minutes northeast of here,
Yeah.
and it's that I've been here for 26, 27 years now. Love it, you know,
Wow.
absolutely love it. And I don't have um, any type of talent. I've got one through college, one in college, and one getting ready to start college. So treasure is a little bit limited,
Mhm.
but I see the value in time.
Mm.
You know, you never know until you put yourself out there. And as hope diminishes, I think there's the inability of us to step out the front door. You know, we start to close our surroundings down more and more and more. So one advice or one piece of advice that I would have, I think for anybody, because it has served me prior to my conversion and it serves me even more deeply now following my conversion, is giving your time.
Mhm.
You know, whether it's, you know, for me, it started off coaching youth sports and building teams, to school board, to Smoky Hills PBS board. I mean, it's, you never know who you're going to meet.
Mhm.
You never know who's going to be put in your path. But
Mhm.
one thing I can guarantee you is if you don't put yourself out there, the chances of coming across somebody at the right time, at the right place to deliver or receive a message is going to be more difficult.
Right.
And
Oh,
so
wow,
I
that's
guess
good.
my piece of advice is if hope starts to feel like it's dwindling, step out, give some time, and see what your service does, not just for yourself, but maybe you see it firsthand in the face of somebody else, and
Mm.
maybe that reignites the flame to some degree. So
Yeah.
give your time.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent advice. We have somebody coming on tomorrow, I think, to talk about time, talent, and treasure stewardship. So
Okay.
this will be great. And a lot of times, like I started out with time too, and it developed from there. But I wrote this down. Comparison is the thief of joy. That is, I'm going to keep that quote. Do you know who said it?
No,
Or
I
that is good. And every day we should pray for faith, an increase in faith, hope, and love. So that's something that they always say we should pray for. So, Josh, thanks so much for coming in. And if do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
no,
No.
I am humbled and honored to be here. Thanks
Thank you.
for
Thanks
thanks
for
for
your
bringing me
time.
back, and well done. You do a great job. You create
Uh,
a very comfortable setting. Um, I'm
uh,
a talker, but this
thank you.
overwhelms me. This makes me nervous, and so thank you. Thanks for creating
Yeah,
a wonderful
Cody.
environment.
Cody does a super job too, but second best sometimes. Thanks.
Thank you for all
Appreciate
you
it.
guys do.
God
Much
bless you.
appreciated. God bless you.
Okay, so we're coming up on the 10 o'clock hour, and our next guest is going to be Father